The sun had set over Earth, casting long shadows across the streets of every city. It was just another peaceful evening on the planet, or so it seemed. On the far side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council, an organization of many alien species, was meeting. Their purpose was to discuss and resolve issues that affected the entire galaxy. Earth, once a powerful force, was now a member of the Council, struggling to maintain its voice among beings far older and technologically advanced. In this particular meeting, tensions ran high. There was an issue regarding a human colony on a distant world, a colony that had recently fallen victim to attacks by a rival species within the Council. The humans had called for action, demanding that the Council take responsibility and ensure the safety of their people. But as always, the Council was slow to act, caught up in debates and diplomatic negotiations. And in the midst of these discussions, a small but tragic event would change everything. The event began when a young child, a human orphan, found himself at the wrong place at the wrong time. The child had been taken to a neutral planet, one that was not aligned with any Council member, for a rare event, the annual Council Summit. It was meant to be a chance for the leaders of the Council to interact with their citizens, to show unity and peace, but not everyone in the Council was interested in such unity. As the summit progressed, a peaceful protest by a rebellious faction broke out. The protesters, who believed the Council was corrupt and controlled by the strongest species, had no intention of letting things go peacefully. They had already been disrupting the summit with demands for change. While the Council's peacekeepers attempted to restore order, the situation spiraled out of control. Amid the chaos, a stray energy blast from one of the Council's weapon systems hit the child. It was a simple mistake, a collision of events that resulted in the child's life being tragically cut short. The Council had already begun their investigation, but to the people of Earth, it was clear they had done nothing. The child's death was brushed aside as an accident by the Council members. No one was held accountable. No one showed true remorse. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. The Earth government, though used to the cold bureaucracy of the Council, could not let this pass. The child, like so many others, was a symbol. He had come from a poor family, one of many displaced by wars and unrest. Yet he had shown hope and potential, something humans had always prided themselves on. The ability to rise above hardship. The Council's cold indifference was more than just an injustice to Earth. It was a direct attack on everything humanity had fought for, everything they stood for. In the days that followed, Earth's leaders held emergency meetings. The loss of the child united the government, the people, and the military in a way nothing had before. There was anger, of course, but beneath the anger, there was something more dangerous. Determination. For many humans, this wasn't just about the death of an innocent child. It was about the constant disrespect from the Council, the way humanity had been treated as weak and insignificant. The leaders of Earth gathered in secret, knowing that they could no longer rely on the Council for protection or justice. They needed to take action. And for the first time in many years, they began to think back to Earth's history, long ago, when humans were known throughout the galaxy as one of the most powerful species. What the Council did not know, and what Earth had hidden from them for centuries, was that Earth had an ancient fleet, an armada of ships unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. These ships, built in humanity's golden age, were designed for war, for defense, and for expansion. They were long forgotten, buried deep within the dark reaches of space, hidden away so that no one would ever know of them. But Earth still held the knowledge of how to activate these ships, how to bring them back online. As soon as the news reached Earth's military commanders, they began to search for the ancient fleet. It was a secret, one kept even from most humans. Only a select few knew of its existence. Earth's government had chosen to hide this power away, believing that peace could be kept through diplomacy and cooperation with the Council. But now, with the loss of a child and the Council's failure to act, humanity had no choice but to reveal this ancient strength. The plan was simple, but dangerous. Earth's leaders had no idea how powerful the fleet still was, or whether it would even work. The ships had been dormant for so long, their technology outdated by centuries. But the humans of Earth had always relied on their creativity, their resourcefulness. They would find a way to bring the fleet back, and when they did, they would show the Council exactly what humanity was capable of. It wasn't just about revenge. No, it was about respect. The Council had crossed a line. They had killed a child, an innocent soul, and now humanity would make them pay. The first whispers of Earth's ancient fleet were already echoing through the stars, but no one in the Council could know what was coming next. What they had underestimated in humanity was about to be revealed. In the darkened halls of Earth's government, a sense of urgency had taken hold. The death of the child, once a tragic moment of grief, had become a turning point for humanity. The leaders of Earth knew that no amount of protest or diplomacy could change the course of the Galactic Council's cold indifference. Something stronger, something more decisive was needed. As they met in the underground command center, the weight of their decision was felt in every word. While the world's leaders debated their next move, hidden far beneath the surface of Earth's political machine, another conversation was taking place, one that had been kept secret for generations. It was a conversation about humanity's greatest forgotten strength, the Elder Armada. Long before Earth had joined the Galactic Council, back in an age when humans were still exploring the stars on their own, Earth had been a force to be reckoned with. The Elder Armada was a collection of colossal warships, each a masterpiece of ancient human engineering. These ships were the pride of Earth's spacefaring empire, built to defend humanity from any threat in the galaxy. Their weapons were unmatched, their shields nearly invulnerable, and their sheer size was enough to intimidate even the most powerful of alien species. However, with the passing of time and the rise of the Galactic Council, Earth had chosen to hide the Elder Armada away. The ships had been buried deep within an uncharted region of space, where they could not be found. The Council's members had no idea that Earth had once been the creator of such a powerful fleet. To them, humanity was just another species, struggling to find its place in the greater cosmic order. They believed that Earth was weak, relying on the protection of the Council and their allies. The truth was far different. Deep within Earth's military archives, a small group of scientists and engineers have been quietly working for years. They were the keepers of Earth's secret history, the ones who had uncovered the long-lost blueprints and technologies of the Elder Armada. They knew that if the time ever came, if Earth was ever forced to fight, the Elder Armada would be humanity's salvation. The moment that time arrived, the decision was made. The government's highest-ranking officials ordered the fleet's reactivation, using all of the advanced knowledge humanity had gathered over the centuries. The process was complex, requiring the coordination of thousands of systems, but the engineers were determined. They worked day and night, aware that the fate of Earth, and possibly the entire galaxy, rested on their shoulders. As the ships began to stir, there was no grand announcement, no public ceremony. The people of Earth were unaware of what was happening in the hidden facilities beneath the surface. Only those directly involved knew that the reawakening of the fleet had begun. The ancient vessels, once dormant, now hummed to life. Their massive engines powered up, their control systems came online, and their weapons systems began to recalibrate. But as the fleet stirred, strange signals began to appear on Earth's sensors. These were not signals from Earth's own forces, but from the far reaches of space. The Galactic Council, or at least parts of it, had started to notice unusual activity in the region, where Earth's ancient fleet lay hidden. The ships of the Council, though far less powerful than the Elder Armada, had vast surveillance networks spread across the galaxy. And now, these networks were picking up something that didn't belong. The first signs of trouble came when a small but advanced scout ship, sent by a faction of the Council, came too close to the location of Earth's fleet. It was a ship designed to detect anything out of the ordinary, anything that might threaten the Council's stability. It was the kind of ship that had helped keep the galaxy's peace for centuries. But it was no match for what the Council had unknowingly overlooked. The scout ship was quickly disabled by the fleet's automated defense systems, its crew left unaware of the force they had just encountered. This unexpected event alerted the Council, but they were still unaware of the full scale of what was unfolding. It wasn't just a handful of ships that were being activated. It was the entire Elder Armada, hundreds of massive warships, each capable of wreaking havoc on any force that stood in their way. Humanity's decision to bring them back was no longer a secret, but the Council had no idea what they were about to face. As Earth's fleet began to take shape once again, humanity's leaders knew that their time was running out. They had no choice but to send a message to let the Council know that Earth was not to be underestimated. The fleet's commanders, all veterans of previous wars and armed with the knowledge of their ancient ancestors, prepared for the worst. They knew that the Council would not simply let humanity go unchallenged. At the same time, the people of Earth began to feel the weight of the decision they had made. On the surface, life continued as normal. People went about their daily routines, unaware that the ships of the Elder Armada were awakening, that the very stars themselves were about to witness the return of humanity's forgotten power. But deep within the governments and military bases, there was a sense of anticipation, even fear. The Elder Armada was a reminder of Earth's past, a time when humanity had been at the height of its power, a time when it had been feared and respected. But now, as the fleet continued to prepare, there was a new question on everyone's mind. Would the fleet be enough? Would humanity's ancient power be enough to confront the Galactic Council, to make them pay for the death of an innocent child? The answer was yet to be revealed. But Earth's leaders, its military commanders, and its people had no doubt. They were about to face the Council's wrath, and they would do so with a power they had not used in centuries. The first signs of movement in the Elder Armada were subtle at first. Small shifts in energy readings, the soft hum of ancient engines starting to stir after centuries of silence. But as the massive ships began to come online, the scale of humanity's forgotten power became clear. The fleet was awakening, and the whole of Earth felt the weight of what that meant. The command center on Earth was filled with people, scientists, military leaders, engineers, and politicians, all watching as the impossible began to unfold. The Elder Armada had not just been hidden for a few decades or centuries. It had been concealed for thousands of years. The technology, though advanced in its time, was now considered ancient and outdated by the standards of the Galactic Council. But Earth's leaders had no choice. The Council had failed them. The Council had killed a child, and now Earth was prepared to show its strength. The fleet consisted of hundreds of massive warships, some as large as small moons, each equipped with weapons that could obliterate entire fleets in a single strike. Their engines, long dormant, roared to life one by one as Earth's engineers pushed them into action. It was a dangerous process, with every step carefully calculated, every command issued with the knowledge that one mistake could lead to a disaster. But the humans in charge of reawakening the fleet were determined. They had no other choice. As the fleet came to life, something unexpected happened. The ships, though technologically advanced for their time, were not completely free from age. The systems were sluggish, and some of the ancient weapons needed calibration. The technology had been designed to last, but nothing could prevent the wear and tear of time. Still, the humans were not discouraged. They knew that, despite the challenges, the fleet could still be a formidable force. In the command center, the tension was palpable. The team of engineers and commanders worked tirelessly, fixing the ship systems, bringing weapons online, and ensuring that each ship was ready for combat. The Elder Armada, though ancient, had not lost its edge. The sheer size of the ships, their firepower, and the historical reputation of humanity's military power were all on display for those few who were involved in the process. The rest of Earth's population remained unaware, their attention fixed on daily life, as they had no idea that the world was on the verge of war. Outside the command center, in the open skies, Strange events were beginning to unfold. Satellites designed to monitor space traffic started picking up unusual signals that could only mean one thing. The Council's surveillance networks had detected something out of the ordinary. The Council, which had long dismissed humanity as weak and irrelevant, now found itself on the edge of something far more dangerous. They had underestimated Earth, and now they were starting to realize that they had made a grave mistake. The signals were traced back to Earth's hidden fleet. The Council's spies had no idea what they were facing. The ships they were monitoring were not just old warships. They were part of a forgotten legacy of power that had been buried beneath the surface of a peaceful world. The Council, at first, dismissed the reports as unimportant, assuming that the ships were relics of the past that had no real strength left. But as more signals were detected, they started to question whether this was something they should be concerned about. The tension between Earth and the Council continued to build. The first sign of open conflict came when a small Council ship, sent to investigate the strange readings, approached the area where the fleet was being reactivated. The crew of the ship had no idea what they were about to face. As they neared the region where Earth's ancient ships lay, the fleet's defense systems were triggered. Without warning, a powerful electromagnetic pulse disabled the Council ship, sending it spiraling into a nearby asteroid field. The ship's systems were fried, and its crew had to eject into space, lucky to escape with their lives. But their mission had failed. The Council had been warned. Back on Earth, the engineers were not deterred by the incident. In fact, the attack on the Council ship had only fueled their determination. The fleet was growing stronger, with each ship coming closer to full readiness. They had no intention of letting the Council get away with their indifference. The tragic death of the child had been a turning point, but it was more than that. It was the start of humanity's reclamation of its past. The Elder Armada would be humanity's answer to the Council's arrogance, a message that Earth would no longer stand idly by. As the ships continued to power up, humanity's leaders prepared for the inevitable response from the Council. They knew that the Council would retaliate. They would try to send larger fleets to stop Earth's ancient power from being unleashed. But Earth's commanders were confident. The Elder Armada was not just a collection of ships. It was a symbol of humanity's strength, resilience, and determination. The reactivation of the fleet was not without its challenges, but the human spirit was unyielding. The fleets of the Galactic Council, though powerful, had no idea what they were about to face. The ancient warships of Earth were not like anything the Council had ever encountered, and with every passing moment, the gap between Earth's hidden power and the Council's ignorance grew wider. The humans, working together, continued to bring the fleet back online, and with each success, the belief in their victory grew. They knew that the Council would come for them soon, but they were ready. The Elder Armada was Earth's weapon, and it would be used to show the Council that humanity was not to be underestimated. They had a past filled with power, and now, they would use that power to make their voices heard across the galaxy. The Galactic Council had always thought of humanity as small and weak, just another species trying to find its place among the stars. For centuries, Earth had been part of this vast organization, contributing little more than diplomatic talks and trade agreements. But the death of the child had changed everything. Now, the Council was starting to realize that Earth was no longer the peaceful, passive species it once was. The first signs of humanity's growing power came when the mysterious disappearance of the Council's scout ship was reported. The vessel had been sent to investigate strange readings in the far reaches of space, near where Earth's ancient fleet was being reawakened. When the ship failed to return, the Council was forced to send a larger, more powerful fleet to investigate further. This was not just a minor incident, it was a message. But the Council refused to see it as such. They saw it as a small inconvenience, something easily dealt with. They could not imagine that Earth, in its quiet, hidden way, had brought back an ancient armada, one that could turn the tide of galactic power. The Council assembled its fleets, massive warships piloted by some of the most skilled military commanders in the galaxy. They had the numbers, they had the experience, and they believed that no force, not even Earth, could stand against them. They set their course toward Earth, confident that they could crush whatever threat the humans had foolishly awoken. But they were wrong. Back on Earth, the final preparations were underway. The Elder Armada was fully activated. The engineers had completed their work, and every ship was ready for battle. The enormous warships loomed in space, a sight that had not been seen in millennia. The fleet was no longer just a forgotten relic. It was a living, breathing force, and it was about to make its presence known. As the Council fleet approached, the Elder Armada stood ready. Earth's military commanders watched as the incoming ships grew larger in their sensors. The time for talk was over. The time for action had come. The humans knew that they had to be prepared for anything. The Council might not understand the power they were about to face, but Earth's commanders knew that the Elder Armada had the strength to make them understand. The first confrontation took place in the outer reaches of the solar system. The Council's fleet, confident in its numbers, opened fire on the Elder Armada, sending a wave of energy blasts toward the ancient ships. But humanity's long-forgotten fleet was not so easily intimidated. The first blast hit one of the Elder Armada's largest ships, a massive dreadnought known as the Aegis. The blast barely scratched the ship's armor. In response, the Aegis fired back, launching a volley of energy torpedoes that struck the Council's ships with devastating force. One by one, the Council's ships were torn apart. The shock of seeing their vessels destroyed with such ease spread through the Council's ranks. They had underestimated the power of Earth, and now they were paying the price. The Council's fleet began to retreat, but it was too late. The Elder Armada was relentless. Each ship in the fleet was equipped with advanced weapons systems that no Council fleet had ever encountered. The sheer firepower of the Elder Armada was overwhelming. One by one, the Council's ships fell, their crews unable to match the devastating force of Earth's long-dormant fleet. On Earth, the news of the first victory spread quickly. The people who had been unaware of the reawakening of the fleet now saw their ancestors' power being brought to bear on the Council. It was a symbol of humanity's strength, but it was also a sign that the Council's time of dominance might be coming to an end. Earth's leaders, while relieved by the success, knew that this was only the beginning. The Council would not give up easily. They would retaliate. They would try again. And they did. Days later, the Council's remaining fleets arrived in full force, larger and more powerful than before. They had learned from their first defeat, but they had also underestimated one crucial factor: the spirit of humanity. The Elder Armada might have been ancient, but its commanders were anything but outdated. The humans leading the fleet had adapted to the changing times, using their ingenuity and creativity to outthink their enemies. They knew that victory would not come from brute strength alone. The second battle took place in deep space, far from the prying eyes of the galaxy. This time, the Council came prepared. They deployed advanced countermeasures and tactical strategies designed to disable the Elder Armada's ships. But humanity's fleet was ready. The ships were equipped with old but reliable technologies that had stood the test of time. And more importantly, they were led by commanders who knew how to think outside the box. As the two fleets clashed in the vast emptiness of space, humanity's strategy became clear. While the Council focused on overwhelming the Elder Armada with firepower, the humans used speed and cunning. Smaller, faster ships darted in and out of the enemy lines, launching precision strikes against weak points in the Council's ships. The larger warships of the Elder Armada formed a protective wall around the smaller vessels, using their superior shields and armor to absorb the Council's attacks. The battle raged on for hours, but the tide was slowly turning in humanity's favor. The Council's fleets, though powerful, were beginning to show signs of wear. Their advanced ships had no answer to the relentless attack of the Elder Armada. One by one, the Council's ships were damaged, their weapons systems disabled, their crews overwhelmed by the human strategy. The Council had never faced an opponent like this before. Earth was not a weak, vulnerable species. They were not helpless. And now, the Council was starting to realize that they had made a grave mistake. The Galactic Council's response was swift, but it was no longer enough. Humanity's long-dormant Elder Armada had struck a decisive blow, and the Council was beginning to feel the weight of their miscalculation. The once unthinkable idea of Earth standing up to the most powerful forces in the galaxy was now a reality. The tide of battle had shifted, and humanity was no longer the weak, insignificant species the Council had believed them to be. After the second devastating defeat, the remaining Council forces retreated, but not without a sense of fear lingering in their ranks. They had faced the unexpected and now understood the true power of Earth's fleet. They had thought of Earth as a young, unimportant player in galactic politics, but they were wrong. The Elder Armada was not just a collection of ships. It was a symbol of humanity's strength, of their ability to endure and fight back. The Council had no choice but to regroup and rethink their strategy. Back on Earth, the news of the Elder Armada's victory sent waves of pride and excitement through the population. Ordinary citizens, who had no idea that such a fleet even existed, now found themselves united in their belief that humanity could face the Council and emerge victorious. The death of the innocent child had sparked something within them, a renewed sense of purpose and a desire to show the galaxy that Earth was no longer to be underestimated. In the command centers, the mood was different. While the victories were celebrated, the leaders knew that the battle was far from over. The Council would not back down so easily. They would send more fleets, more advanced weapons, and more experienced commanders. Earth's forces, though powerful, could not rest on their laurels. They had to prepare for the next wave. The Elder Armada was an incredible force, but its ships had limitations. They were ancient, and while their weapons were devastating, the ships were not invincible. The humans knew that they needed to keep improving their fleet to ensure that their strength was enough to stand against the Council's vast resources. The engineers worked tirelessly, upgrading systems, repairing damage, and preparing the fleet for the inevitable return of the Council's forces. Meanwhile, the Council was in turmoil. The leaders of the Council had always prided themselves on their control over the galaxy. Now, Earth had thrown that control into question. They had underestimated humanity for far too long, and now their power was being challenged in a way they hadn't anticipated. The once unified Council began to show signs of division. Some factions argued for peace, for diplomatic negotiations, while others called for full-scale retaliation. But there was one thing they all agreed on: Earth had to be dealt with. The Council's military leaders began preparing for the next battle. But this time, they would not underestimate their opponent. They knew that they had to destroy the Elder Armada if they hoped to maintain their dominance in the galaxy. Earth had become a serious threat, and they could not allow it to stand unchallenged. They gathered their most powerful fleets, ready to bring everything they had to bear on humanity. On Earth, the leadership was already anticipating the Council's next move. They knew that the Council would come again, stronger and more determined. But humanity had learned from its victories. The leaders had already begun to prepare for the next battle, using their new knowledge to adapt and innovate. They knew that they couldn't rely on the Elder Armada alone. They had to think beyond the obvious. The Council would expect the same tactics, the same strategies. Humanity, however, was ready to surprise them. As the Council's fleets gathered in the outer reaches of the solar system, the tension was palpable. Both sides knew that the next battle would determine the future of the galaxy. The Council's forces were vast, but humanity's fleet had already proven its strength. The question was no longer about whether humanity could survive the Council's assault. It was about how the battle would unfold and how Earth would make its mark on galactic history. In the darkness of space, the Elder Armada stood ready. Its massive warships, powered by ancient technology and driven by a new, powerful will, waited for the Council's assault. The ships, though old, were formidable. They were equipped with weapons capable of turning entire fleets to dust, and their shields were designed to withstand even the most advanced weaponry. But they weren't just powerful. They were led by humans who knew how to fight. The commanders of Earth's forces were experienced, battle-hardened, and determined. They had seen what the Council could do, and they had learned from it. As the two fleets faced each other, the countdown to the next battle began. The Council, confident in their superior numbers, launched the first wave of attacks, their ships speeding toward the Elder Armada with incredible force. But humanity was ready. The Elder Armada's ships moved into formation, their massive guns ready to fire. The first shots were exchanged, and the vacuum of space was filled with the sounds of battle. This time, humanity had learned from its previous victories. They had analyzed the Council's tactics, and they knew exactly how to counter them. Smaller, faster ships darted in and out of the Council's lines, targeting weak points in their defenses. The larger warships, protected by the Elder Armada's shields, took on the brunt of the enemy's firepower, their massive cannons returning fire with devastating accuracy. The Council's fleets, though powerful, struggled to keep up. Their ships, though advanced, were not prepared for the unconventional tactics of humanity. The Elder Armada was like nothing they had ever encountered before. Its power was undeniable, but it was its strategic thinking that was truly dangerous. As the battle raged on, it was clear that Earth's forces were not just surviving. They were winning. The Council's ships, once thought to be invincible, were now falling one by one. The tide of battle had turned again, and humanity was proving that they would no longer be silent. The Galactic Council's grip on the galaxy was beginning to slip. Earth, the once hidden underdog, had proven that it could no longer be ignored. The Elder Armada, with its ancient power and the fierce will of humanity behind it, had dealt the Council a series of devastating blows. The Council's fleets, once vast and unbeatable, were now crumbling under the relentless attacks of Earth's forces. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and the Council was running out of options. As Earth's commanders prepared for the next phase of battle, the mood on the homeworld was tense but hopeful. The people of Earth had watched in awe as their fleet, long thought to be a forgotten relic, had come to life and fought back against the Council's overwhelming might. The victories were significant, but everyone knew that the final assault was approaching. The Council would not surrender easily. They would bring everything they had to stop Earth's rise, and humanity had to be ready. On the command center screens, the Council's remaining fleets were being tracked. Massive warships, once thought to be unstoppable, now seemed like easy targets. But the battle was not over yet. Earth's fleet had already made its mark, but the final blow was still needed. It was time to end this once and for all. The Council had learned from their past mistakes, and they were not taking any chances this time. They had sent their most advanced fleets to Earth's doorstep. Hundreds of warships, their weapons systems fine-tuned for maximum destruction, were ready to engage the Elder Armada. The stakes had never been higher. Earth had already proven its ability to fight back, but the Council was now determined to crush this rebellion before it could spread further. The final confrontation would take place in the heart of Earth's solar system. The Council's fleets were already on the move, entering the outer reaches of the solar system. They moved in a coordinated formation, each ship powered up and ready to fire. They knew that they could not afford another defeat. The fate of the galaxy depended on this battle. On Earth, the leadership was not waiting idly by. They had learned from the previous battles, and they had made preparations of their own. The Elder Armada was ready, its ships fully powered and armed with the latest upgrades. The humans had studied the Council's tactics, and they had devised a plan that would strike at the heart of the enemy's forces. The time for defense was over. It was time for humanity to take the fight to the Council. As the two fleets prepared to clash, the tension was palpable. The Council's forces, confident that their firepower would overwhelm the Elder Armada, charged forward. The battle began in a violent explosion of energy. Laser blasts and plasma bolts lit up the darkness of space as the two fleets collided. The Council's ships, massive and powerful, unleashed a wave of destruction. But the Elder Armada was ready. The ships of Earth moved with precision, their weapon systems targeting weak points in the Council's defenses. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The sheer scale of the conflict was overwhelming. But the humans were not intimidated. They fought with everything they had, their every move calculated, their every decision based on the knowledge they had gained from the previous battles. The Council's ships, though advanced, were no match for the sheer determination of Earth's forces. As the battle raged on, the Council's fleets began to falter. One by one, their ships were damaged, their weapons disabled, their shields failing under the relentless assault. The Elder Armada, though outnumbered, had the upper hand. The Council's arrogance, their belief that they could simply crush Earth's resistance, had blinded them to the reality of the situation. Earth was not the weak, insignificant species they had once believed it to be. Earth was strong. And now, the Council was about to pay the price for their mistake. With each passing minute, the Council's ships grew fewer and fewer. The Elder Armada, though ancient, was fighting like a force of nature. The massive warships of Earth's fleet, powered by advanced technologies and led by the determination of humanity, tore through the Council's defenses. The final assault was in full swing, and the Council's forces were in retreat. The commanders of the Elder Armada pushed forward, determined to bring the fight to the Council's core. The Council's capital ships, the pride of their fleet, were now in their sights. The battle was no longer just about survival. It was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity would not be silenced. Humanity would no longer be oppressed by the Council's rule. The Council, realizing that they were losing, began to send out desperate distress signals, calling for reinforcements. But it was too late. The Council's forces were broken, their leadership in disarray. Earth's fleet had shattered their lines, and the final phase of the battle was at hand. The Elder Armada pressed forward, targeting the heart of the Council's power. In the final moments of the battle, the Council's last-ditch effort to counterattack failed. The final Council warship, the flagship of the fleet, was destroyed in a massive explosion. The Council's leadership had been decimated. The war was over. Earth had won. Back on Earth, the victory was met with overwhelming celebration. The people who had once feared their place in the galaxy now stood proud. The death of the child had sparked a revolution, and now humanity had proven that it was a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Council had underestimated them, and now they would have to face the consequences. The war was over, but humanity's journey was just beginning. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate Earth. The Elder Armada had been awakened, and with it, humanity had taken its place among the stars. The Council's reign was over, and Earth's new era had begun. The destruction of the Galactic Council's fleets was only the beginning. With the last Council warship shattered in a burst of light, the galaxy was left in stunned silence. Humanity had won, but what came next was a question no one had anticipated. The power vacuum left behind by the fall of the Council was massive, and for the first time in galactic history, Earth stood at the center of a new era. The people of Earth had always dreamed of a future among the stars, but no one had expected this. The victory had come at a heavy cost. While the Council's fleets had been defeated, many ships in Earth's own Elder Armada had taken significant damage during the final battles. The engineers worked tirelessly to repair the ships, but their efforts were not enough to ignore the deeper question: what would Earth do with its newfound power? The leaders of Earth's government gathered in the command center, watching as the last remnants of the Council's influence were erased from the galaxy. Their victory was undeniable, but the responsibility that came with it was overwhelming. The world's leaders had to act quickly. They could not afford to wait and let the power left by the Council spiral out of control. They needed a plan for the future. "We've done it," General Maria Cortez said, her voice firm yet filled with awe as she stood in front of the massive holographic display showing the remnants of the Council's fleet. "But now we face a galaxy that is without leadership. We can't let chaos take hold." The room was filled with silence as the other leaders exchanged looks. They knew the truth. Humanity had won, but the victory was not the end. It was the beginning of something much greater. Earth was now the most powerful force in the galaxy, but that power had to be wielded wisely. It was time to step into the unknown. For the first time, the Council's high-ranking officials, those who had survived the final assault, were brought in for negotiations. They had no army to protect them, no fleets to back them up. It was Earth's turn to decide the fate of the galaxy. The Council's remaining leaders, once so sure of their power, now knelt before the humans they had so underestimated. We surrender. The Council's Chancellor, a tall figure of dark skin and gleaming silver armor, spoke solemnly, his voice echoing in the chamber. We acknowledge Earth's strength. We acknowledge your right to lead. Maria Cortez stood tall, her eyes fixed on the Chancellor. She had always known that humanity was capable of greatness, but hearing the words spoken aloud was a stark reminder of how far Earth had come. We don't want to lead through fear, she replied, her voice calm yet resolute. We want to lead with respect, understanding, and cooperation. The Chancellor bowed his head. It was a gesture that symbolized the end of an era. The Galactic Council, which had once held dominion over countless worlds, was no more. Earth was the new power, but its leaders were determined to use that power for good. Over the following weeks, Earth's leaders worked to establish a new order. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy, from planets that had once been under the Council's oppressive rule, gathered to form the new governing body. The galaxy would no longer be ruled by a single council. Instead, it would be a collective of planets, united in their desire for peace and prosperity. The first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly was held on Earth's moon, where a massive new space station had been constructed. The station, named Unity Station, was a symbol of humanity's determination to forge a new path forward. Leaders from countless worlds arrived, each eager to participate in the creation of a new galactic order. It was a moment of history, one that would be remembered for millennia. Maria Cortez stood at the head of the table, surrounded by representatives from dozens of planets. "This is our chance," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "We have seen what happens when power is concentrated in the hands of the few. We know what it is like to be oppressed. Now we must ensure that this new era is one of equality and justice for all." The leaders nodded, and the discussions began. There were disagreements, of course. Some worlds, used to the Council's old ways, struggled to accept the idea of shared power. But there were no more threats of force. There was no longer a need for war. The people of Earth had shown that they were capable of winning, but now they would show that they were capable of building. As the days passed, the galaxy began to change. The newly formed Galactic Assembly worked to dismantle the last remnants of the Council's authoritarian rule. They put in place new laws to protect the rights of all species, to ensure that no single race or planet could dominate another. And most importantly, they worked to rebuild the relationships between the planets that had been broken by the Council's oppressive reign. The Elder Armada, once the secret weapon of Earth, was now a symbol of hope. The ships, restored and repaired, stood proudly in orbit around Earth. They were a reminder of the strength of humanity, but also of their commitment to the greater good. No longer would they be a tool of destruction. The Elder Armada would serve as the guardians of the galaxy, ensuring that peace and cooperation prevailed. As Maria Cortez stood on the balcony of Unity Station, looking out at the vast expanse of stars, she could not help but feel a sense of awe. The galaxy was changing, and Earth was at the heart of it. It had been a long road to get here, filled with hardship and sacrifice, but humanity had made it, and now they had the chance to shape the future. The Council is gone, Maria thought to herself, a smile tugging at her lips, and Earth's true journey is just beginning. The new era had arrived, and with it, a future filled with hope, unity, and the promise of a galaxy built on equality for all.